Hello everyone and welcome to Untamed Strength's How to Squat video tutorial. I believe the squat is the most productive movement you can do in the gym. It'll increase muscle size and strength in your quads, glutes, hamstrings, core, lower back, spinal erectors, upper back, and even your neck. It'll improve your balance and coordination, your flexibility, your athleticism, and your mental toughness. The barbell squat also produces a nervous system response unlike any other movement. Putting a heavy load on your back, squatting all the way down, and standing up with it is one of the toughest and most intimidating things you can do in the gym, which explains its lack of popularity. I took my time making this video because in my opinion, the squat is the most technical of all four main lifts. If you have any weaknesses, tightnesses, or imbalances, the squat will expose them. I'll begin this video by explaining the three main squat styles and how to perform them. I will then cover some possible problems that you may have when squatting and how to correct them. But before I continue, I want you to realize that no matter what I tell you, no matter what cues I shout at you, no matter how much you study the squat, if you are not physically capable of performing a proper squat, your squat is still going to suck. What do I mean by this? If you have poor posture, tight ankles, tight hips, and bad shoulders, nothing I tell you will fix your squat overnight. You need to fix your imbalances and improve your flexibility before you can expect to squat twice your body weight with good form. With that said, let's get started. The first squat style is the high bar squat. It's called high bar because you place the barbell high on your back against your neck. Placing the bar in this position is going to force you to keep your torso in an upright position throughout the entire squat. The high bar squat is very quad dominant and it's mostly used by Olympic weightlifters or anyone trying to perfect the clean and jerk and the snatch. The next squat style is the low bar squat. It's called low bar because you place the bar lower on your back. Placing the bar in this position is going to force you to sit your hips back rather than straight down, and it's going to force you to lean your shoulders slightly forward. The prime movers in a low bar squat include your hamstrings and lower back. For most people, the low bar squat is going to allow the squatter to move the most amount of weight, which is why it's very popular with powerlifters and strongmen. The last squat style is the front squat. I am not going to go into detail about how to front squat simply because this video is already going to be very lengthy without it. I will say that other than placing the bar in the front of your body, the front squat is identical to the high bar squat. The squat style that you choose can be determined by a number of factors. Your sport, like I said, if you're training the Olympic lifts, you need to perfect the high bar squat because it is crucial to maintain an upright torso in the catch position of each Olympic lift. If you're into powerlifting or strongman, or if you're just trying to squat more weight than anyone else in your gym, you're probably going to do it with a low bar squat because I think it engages more muscle groups than the high bar squat. More muscles being used equals more weight being moved. For you aesthetic lifters out there, if you're trying to target certain muscles, the high bar squat and the front squat will give you some serious gains in your quads, and the low bar squat will pack on size to your underdeveloped hamstrings, as well as give you a strong, dense back. There's nothing wrong with using both squat styles in your training. Another factor that can determine what squat style you use is your flexibility. The high bar squat takes a lot more ankle flexibility than the low bar, and the low bar squat takes a lot of hamstring and shoulder flexibility. Usually, the low bar squat makes it easier to achieve depth than the high bar because for most people, it's easier to bend than sit straight down. Last but not least, the most important factor to consider when deciding which squat style works best for you is your personal preference. I feel like I have to say this in all of my videos, so here I go. Take what I say in this video with a grain of salt. Please don't send me nasty messages and call me dirty names because I suggested that you squat with your toes slightly pointed out rather than straight ahead. You can give my tips and suggestions a try. If they work, great. If they don't, try something else. Everyone's squat is going to look different. This is how I perform mine. The high bar squat. Grab the bar with a narrow grip, hands just outside shoulder width. Place the bar nice and high right on top of your traps against your neck. Make sure you squeeze your shoulder blades together and keep your upper back very tight. This is going to help you keep your chest up throughout the entire lift. As you'll notice, when I lose upper back tightness, my chest collapses. You will not have a strong squat if you don't keep your chest up. Once your hands are on the bar, do not let go. Once you place your hands on the bar and the bar on your back, I want you to pull the bar apart. Imagine you had a band in between your hands. Pull the band apart across your back. This will keep your upper back tight and it will help keep your elbows tucked at your side and pointed down. You don't want your elbows pointing back. You want them pointing down towards the floor. Unracking the bar. When you unrack the bar, make sure you bring both feet underneath your hips before you walk the bar out of the racks. Do not lunge the bar out in a hurry. Do not set the bar so high that you have to tippy-toe it out of the racks. The bar should be placed about mid-sternum before you take it out of the racks. Feet width. Elliot Hulse says it best. When squatting, your feet width should be the same as your feet width when taking a dump in the woods. This natural stance is going to be the most comfortable. For myself and most people, this is going to be around hip width or just a bit outside of hip width. It hurts my eyes when I see someone squatting with a stance that is too wide for their flexibility. Knees buckling in like this is not only bad for your knees, it's stressful on the hips too. So, place your feet around hip width and then point your toes slightly outward. Pointing your toes out is going to help you squat lower. When your toes are pointed straight forward, your stomach will quickly touch your thighs on the descent. Naturally, you'll want to stand up as soon as you feel your thighs pushing your stomach in. When you point your toes out, your knees should follow. Pushing your knees out as you descend will clear your thighs out of your stomach's path. Now you can squat to proper depth without prematurely standing up because your stomach touched your thighs. Pointing your toes out is also going to help you engage more muscles. When you torque your knees outward, you will more effectively engage in your glutes, your adductors, and your abductors. More muscles being engaged will allow you to lift more weight. The descent. Before you squat down, take a big breath into your belly and hold it for the entire squat. Don't exhale until you are almost standing back upright. Do some research on the Valsalva maneuver. Look straight ahead. Push your knees out so they're tracking with the toes and sit straight down. Keep your chest up and head looking forward. The bar path should remain over the center of the foot throughout the entire squat. In other words, if I drew a line down from the end of the barbell, it should cut my foot in half. This is going to ensure that you are balanced. You do not want the bar path to drift forward over the toes. The low bar squat. In the high bar position, the hands don't play a very important role. As you can see, the bar is mostly supported by your back, not your hands. However, in the low bar position, your hands play a very important role in supporting the bar on your back. Without the support of your hands, the low bar position is nearly impossible. If you were to grab the bar with the same narrow grip that you would use in the high bar position, your wrists would be extremely strained. So, for a good low bar position, use a wide grip. Place the bar nice and low on your upper back. It should rest on your rear delts, not up on your traps and neck. A great tip is to flatten your wrists. This is going to ensure that you aren't holding the weight in your hands, but rather supporting the bar securely on your back. Using a thumbless grip will make it easier to flatten your wrists. Once your hands are set, I want you to squeeze your upper back tight by pulling your elbows towards each other. Pulling the bar apart and trying to bend the barbell across your back is going to ensure upper back tightness. Your elbows should be just behind the barbell. Do not point your elbows back and jam the bar into your neck. Again, elbows slightly behind the barbell. Once your hands are set, do not adjust them. Unracking the bar and feet width is the same as the high bar squat. Head position. Keep your head just below neutral. I like to keep my eyes fixed on a spot 8 to 10 feet on the ground in front of me. You have my permission to kick any high school football coach in the balls that tells you to look up at the ceiling. This can cause a neck injury and it can lead to a mean exertion headache. It also kills hip drive. Looking too far down is also a bad idea. Looking too far down can cause your hips to rise too fast. This will force you to use your back to lift the barbell up, or you'll just end up dumping the barbell overhead and missing a squat. The descent. A very important cue to remember when low bar squatting is to squat with your hips, not your knees. This is a high bar squat. You'll notice I start the squat by breaking at my knees first. I initiate the squat by pushing my knees forward and sitting straight down. This is the low bar squat. You'll notice I start the squat by breaking at my hips first. I initiate the squat by pushing my hips back. My hips break before my knees. And this is how you squat with your hips, not your knees. In a high bar squat, you sit your butt straight down. In a low bar squat, you break at the hips and sit back as if you were trying to sit in a chair behind you. You'll notice this keeps my shins almost perpendicular with the ground below me. When you place the barbell in the high bar position, you start with the bar over the center of the foot. So, in order to keep the barbell over the center of your foot, you have to sit straight down and maintain a very vertical posture. In the low bar squat, the barbell starts out behind the center of your foot. So, in order to get the bar over the center of your foot, you need to sit the hips back and lean the shoulders slightly forward. Keeping the barbell over the center of your foot and maintaining balance throughout the entire squat is the key to squatting more weight for more reps. Standing up. Once you're at the bottom of the squat, you need to drive your hips up. Okay, stop. Don't forget to drive your hips and your shoulders and chest up. Learn how to use the natural bounce at the bottom of the squat to your advantage. If you're a bigger person with husky legs, your natural bounce might be your hamstrings touching your calves. This explains why shorter, stocky people are usually better at squats than taller, lanky people. This natural bounce is also called the stretch reflex. When you sit your hips back, your hamstrings are being stretched out. Once they have stretched to their maximum length, they will snap back as they shorten. This stretch reflex will help propel you out of the bottom of your squat. Get comfortable with the natural bounce because the faster you get out of the hole, the easier it will be to stand all the way up. Now let's talk about a controversial topic, proper depth. You didn't think I would make an entire how to squat video without mentioning depth, did you? Proper depth is achieved when the crease of your hips goes below the top of your kneecap. I don't want to hear about how you hit parallel or went below parallel or your thighs were parallel, your hamstrings were parallel, your femur was parallel. I don't care. If the crease of your hips goes below the top of your kneecap, it's a good squat. If the crease of your hips does not go below the top of your kneecap, it was not a good squat. Period. I apologize for the cheap props. I'm making these videos on a very small budget. Notice the pink athletic tape on my hip and knee. I have not achieved depth until the tape on my hip goes below the tape on my knee. Here's another way to illustrate my point. The band going across the screen is lined up with the top of my kneecap. Proper depth is achieved once the crease of my hip goes below the band. Not deep enough. Still not deep enough. Yeah, still not even close. It's not always necessary to squat ass to grass, but I'm not gonna tell you not to. Please don't be the guy or girl who starts to squat down and then just bends forward to give the illusion that you're achieving depth. Just because the barbell lowers doesn't mean your hips are. Okay. Normally when people say that squats are bad for your knees, or squatting deep is bad for your knees, I completely ignore them because I have no interest in arguing about squats with someone who doesn't even know how to squat. However, if they ask me to educate them, that's another story. I'm going to explain to you why squats are not bad for your knees, but in fact, good for them. Squats are not bad for your knees. Your shitty form is bad for your knees. Squatting deep is a fundamental movement that all of us humans should be able to do. Look at many people in third world countries. They eat in a deep squat position. They wash dishes in a deep squat position. They poop in a deep squat position. Take a look at babies. They easily sit down on their butts and squat back up without even using their hands. Squatting low is not genetic. It is not a blessing that only some of us are privileged to have. We were all once able to squat deep. But after 12 years of sitting in a desk for 8 hours a day in school, we got a desk job that we sit in for another 8 hours a day. We drive everywhere in our cars. We sit in chairs when we eat. We go home and sit on the couch to watch TV. We sit on toilets when we poop. We never have to squat into a deep position. And because of the lack of demand, we have lost the ability to do so. Anyways, back to the barbell squat. Squatting halfway down and standing up repeatedly will only strengthen one muscle group, your quads. When you strengthen one muscle group, your quads, and you ignore another, your hamstrings, you will have muscle imbalances that will eventually cause nagging knee pain because of the uneven tension on your kneecap. When you squat all the way down, you engage all the muscles of the hips and legs. Squatting low strengthens your hamstrings, glutes, quads, adductors, and abductors. This balance of muscle development will produce strong and healthy knees. Also, imagine that you have 300 pounds on your back. Now bend your knees a few inches and then stand back up. You just use your knee joint to stop the momentum of all that weight on your back. Half squats force your knee joint to move the weight. This is not good. When you squat low, the momentum of that weight is transferred to the bigger and stronger muscles of the hips. Let your hips move the weight, not your knees. Squatting low is not just a bragging right to say, look at me, I can squat lower than him. It is proper form, plain and simple. Every time I see or hear of someone with knee injuries or knee pain, I am not at all surprised when I see their terrible squat form. Please stop giving squats a bad name. Squats are not the problem, you are. As many of you know, squatting low is easier said than done. Let me tell you why you can't squat low. Reason number 1, you might have tight ankles. If you tend to lean forward onto your toes when you squat, you probably have tight ankles. When someone shouts, "Stay on your heels," and you fall backwards, you probably have tight ankles. Again, folks, this is a low-budget film. When standing, the angle of my ankle is 90 degrees, indicated here by the pink tape. As I squat down, you'll notice the angle of my ankle decreases to much less than 90 degrees. This takes good ankle mobility. This is called ankle dorsiflexion, but we'll leave the big words out of this. Someone with poor ankle mobility would have trouble decreasing the angle of their ankle. Instead, they would shift their weight onto their toes, causing their heels to rise. Trying to keep your weight on your heels doesn't work either. Here's a quick trick that I guarantee will help you squat deep and stay balanced. Putting a plate under your heels will open up the angle of your ankle to greater than 90 degrees. Now, when you squat down, your ankle only bends back to 90 degrees. Ankle dorsiflexion isn't even needed. I would suggest purchasing some squat shoes. You wouldn't play golf in bowling shoes, you wouldn't go running in basketball shoes, so why squat in anything other than squat shoes? Just like the plates under the heels, squat shoes open up the angle of your ankle, so when you squat down, your ankle only bends to 90 degrees. I wouldn't suggest squatting with plates under your heels for the rest of your life, just do it until ankle flexibility improves. Here's a visual to show the importance of squat shoes. When I squat with flat shoes or barefoot, my knees are several inches in front of my toes. When I wear squat shoes, my knees are almost directly over my toes. This makes keeping the weight on my heels a whole lot easier. I know what you're thinking.
My Nike Frees have a raised heel. Why can't I use those?
Running shoes are soft and squishy. They're made for comfort, not for supporting 400 pounds on your back. The truth is, running shoes are better than Chuck Taylors or going barefoot, but they're still not ideal. You probably don't think twice about spending $50 a month on protein, so do yourself a favor and get some squat shoes. Make sure you stretch out your calves before squatting. Even better, stretch out your calves every day. Make sure you stretch out your Achilles and ankle joint by bending your knee and actively trying to decrease that angle I've been talking about. Take your shoes off and sit down as low as you can. Hold on to a pole or power rack for balance. Try to sit your heels on the ground and really feel the stretch in your ankles. Bouncing up and down helps. Along with stretching, taking care of your feet is important too. Use a foot roller or a lacrosse ball. A golf ball works well too. Roll out the fascia on the bottom of your foot. Plantar fasciitis is a big problem with a lot of people. Releasing this tension will carry over into your ankle joint. Get a foam roller and roll out your calf and Achilles. The next reason you can't squat deep might be because of tightnesses in your hips. People with posterior pelvic tilt walk around with their butt tucked under them and their hips slouched forward. People with anterior pelvic tilt walk around with their butt sticking out. Their low back is always in extension, and they often complain about low back pain, as well as pain in their hip flexors when squatting. If you would like to learn more about these two imbalances and how to correct them, go to the Untamed Strength YouTube channel and watch Your Back is Whack, Part 1 and 2. The next reason your squat sucks doesn't necessarily have to do with depth, but it is still important enough to address. If you look like Quasimodo when you squat, you probably need a posture check. Rounding your back and collapsing like this is usually an indicator that your back muscles are weak and your front muscles are very tight. Everyone loves to go to the gym and only work the muscles they can see in the mirror. Bench press, flies, curls. Eventually, their front delts, pecs, and biceps become very tight. This forces internal rotation of the shoulders, causing the palms to face backwards. Their weak upper back starts to round, causing a kyphotic posture. This is a recipe for disaster. Plain and simple, you need to strengthen the muscles in your upper back by doing a lot more pulling exercises. You also need to stretch those tight muscles in your chest, shoulders, and arms. Lay on a foam roller and let your chest open up. Take 20 to 30 big, deep breaths. Forcing extension in your upper back is going to help. If you feel like the bar is always over your toes and you have a tendency to lose balance forward, watch this. Roll the bar down your back. Boom. Now you're in the low bar position and the barbell is over the center of your foot. I'm going to throw in a bonus section because I've often heard people complain about this. Why does my back hurt when I squat? Because of the above problems I mentioned, you might be letting the bar path go in front of the center of your foot, onto your toes. Every time the weight shifts forward, your back muscles are forced to pull the bar back over your center of balance. This is not good and it will fatigue or even injure your back. Another reason your back hurts might be because of excessive butt wink. Butt wink is when your butt slightly tucks under you at the bottom of the squat. This is common in a lot of squatters, myself included, and it's not a big deal. Usually it's happening because you start the squat with a hyperextended lower back, and at the bottom your lower back is just adjusting back to its normal curve. However, when your lower back is flexing and bending, you've got a problem. Your lumbar spine is not supposed to bend. This can cause herniated discs along with chronic back pain. The reason your lower back is bending is usually because you have tight hamstrings. The hamstring connects under your butt cheek and goes to the back of your kneecap. When you squat down to the bottom, your tight hamstrings can't stretch and they pull your pelvis under, causing your lower back to round. Lastly, please understand that this is not the only way to squat. There are plenty of people out there who squat a lot more than I do with different form. My squat is still a work in progress, and I'm still learning every day. That's it, folks. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments box, and I'll do my best to answer them. Please share this video with your half squatting friends. Don't forget to subscribe, and always remember, train untamed.